guys, welcome back to Sweet Peas and Saffron. I'm Denise and I'm sharing easy meal prep recipes to give you your time back during the week. Today, instead of sharing a recipe, we're going to do a little freezer tour. I'm going to show you exactly what I keep stocked up in the freezer. I believe that one of the most important things for meal prep is having healthy ingredients on hand, and so I like to keep my freezer stocked up with healthy meats, healthy vegetables, and components for meals that are going to add a lot more nutrition and just make things a lot easier for me. I also keep homemade meals, like complete meals, frozen in the freezer, and they are my go-to when I don't know what to cook or I'm feeling a little bit like I don't want to cook. That happens all the time. So let's start this tour. All right, so the first thing that I always keep stocked up in my freezer is bread. So this brand, Silver Hills, we get at Costco, and it's a great cleaner brand that has organic and sprouted ingredients. Very tasty and delicious, and so we buy a 3-pack and keep them frozen. Next, I have some frozen enchiladas. So this is like a super simple recipe. I'll leave it for you guys in the link below. And the best thing is, because I freeze it in these metal baking pans, I can put this directly in the oven from frozen, and then I put on my silicone baking lids and I reuse this foil over and over. I also have some frozen chicken marinades. So if you recall my video on how to freeze chicken in the marinades, I will link you to that one. But I like to use stasher bags, so it's a reusable silicone bag. And these are good in the freezer for up to 3 months. So when I'm ready to cook, I just thaw completely and pop them in the oven, and they get so much extra flavor by freezing it in the marinade. Now, I don't actually know what this is, so this will be a surprise. Vegan slow cooker tikka masala. So this is a freezer crock pot meal. I have frozen it in a reusable glass container. When I'm ready to cook, I will thaw it completely and put it in the slow cooker. So it just takes the whole prep step out of the equation and just makes getting dinner on the table a little bit easier. Now this one, oof, this is another freezer meal. Instant Pot chickpea curry. So this is a 3-quart IKEA glass container. And that I'm kind of digging that for freezer crock pot meals or freezer instant pot meals lately. So for this Instant Pot chickpea curry, I will thaw it completely and dump it in the Instant Pot. Pressure cook, I think it's like a total time of 15 minutes. So easy. Now this is a very random item. It's a portion of homemade applesauce. I like to freeze in these little, I think these are 1/2-pint containers, so it fits like 1 cup. And for my kids, I just find that I waste less food when I portion them out into these smaller portions. All right, on to the second row. So I started recently ordering my meats from a company called True Local. This is a Canadian company. It's similar to Butcher Box if you're in the US. So they source premium local meats, and I do an order every 2 to 3 months. And then I just put them in these little bins here. So this is kind of boring. It's just a bunch of chicken breasts. But this one's a lot more loaded up. I've got some pork tenderloin, I've got some ground turkey, I've got some grass-fed ground beef, and some sausages, some pork ribs, and some nitrate-free bacon. So if you're on the fence about trying True Local, I highly recommend them. They are a little pricier than the grocery store, but it's just really nice to know that you're supporting local farmers and that you're feeding your family just really good quality products. If you're in the US, I recommend Butcher Box. I haven't personally tried them, so I can't, like vouch for them personally, but I have friends who have, and they are apparently like just a really amazing company to get your meat from. Okay, now my freezer is not considered stocked unless I have some Klondike bars. I just like to have an ice cream bar after dinner. These are 250 calories, 220 calories a serving, and so you're not like way overdoing it, and it's just a nice treat. But the kids know these are mommies. On to the next row. So I like to keep a stash of pre-cooked meals. I portion out like curries or stir fries with rice and freeze them right in my meal prep containers. I call this my freezer stash, and I reach for this when I don't have time to prep lunch or prep dinner. I do try to thaw these before microwaving them, but I will admit that I have microwaved them without thawing on occasion. These are just like a really great backup plan to have. So if you ever find yourself with like extra curry, if you make a big batch of curry or you make a big stir fry or something like that, you can just portion out the leftovers with rice, or you can plan for leftovers and then freeze them, and it's just so convenient. Okay, beside my freezer stash, now sometimes my freezer stash takes over the whole third row, but right now it's a little bit low, and what I have here is these are just like meats that I purchased and had extras, so I freeze them in these silicone bags. These silicone bags are really great for freezing a lot of things. So these are chicken thighs. Oh, I have a stasher bag with some chicken breast. I've frozen some salmon in here. I have some stewing beef left over here. I have some more chicken breast. So I'm not the best at labeling with the date. I really try to get through these within about 3 months, but you can see I have quite the variety going on right now. Okay, the bottom of the freezer is like a total random mix of stuff, as it probably is in your freezer too. I like to store frozen vegetables and just like odds and ends down there. So right now I have some frozen cranberries, some cauliflower rice, edamame, spinach, and a big old bag of frozen berries. I also have a whole frozen chicken down there. You can actually cook from frozen a whole chicken in your Instant Pot, and I'm going to link you to that recipe in the description box below. All right, I also have, and this is kind of weird, I have a bag of chicken feet. Now, I wanted to experiment. I heard that chicken feet are great to add to your bone broth, and I've been on a major bone broth kick, as you're about to see. So I have a bag of chicken feet to go in my next bone broth recipe. And that takes care of the main part of the freezer. I am going to show you what's on the door in a second. So what I have on my door is broth, soups, and some various odds and ends. So I'll just work my way through it. So I have a lot of bone broth. I like to freeze my bone broth in these 1-pint jars, and I just fill it about 3/4 full. I leave the jar lid open slightly until it has completely solidified, and then I go in and tighten it. So I have a lot of bone broth. We've been testing a bone broth recipe. I like to use them in soups and stews. So I also have some chickpeas that I have cooked and frozen in these weck jars. You can also just use regular 1-pint jars. Either way. So I freeze them right in the liquid. On this shelf, I have a single serving jar of chili. My friend Steph at Meal Plan Addict always freezes her soups in jars as single serving portions, and I thought that was brilliant. So I started doing that with this chili portion here. But then I also have some larger portions of soups. This is a beef and barley soup. You can look for a recipe video coming to the blog later this month. I freeze hummus. This is red pepper hummus. Perfect if you can't get through a whole batch, because sometimes a batch of hummus is quite a bit. And honestly, the rest of these jars is bone broth. So like I said, this is an abnormally high amount of bone broth. We don't always have this many in the freezer, but we are very stocked up for fall and for soup season now. So one last thing, and this is where you guys think I'm really weird. I have a bag of bones in my freezer that I collect as we eat chicken or beef or anything with bones. The leftover bones and anything attached to them goes in this bag, and that's going to go into the Instant Pot with those chicken feet and some herbs, some carrots, celery, and turned into bone broth. So if you are interested in making your own bone broth, I'm going to link you to the recipe on my site, and you can look for a video coming to the channel very soon. So that's it for my freezer tour. If you guys have any questions about the products that I use or any of the recipes, feel free to ask. I will link to everything in the description box below. One thing is that you might have noticed that I freeze with as little plastic as possible. I've mostly found that plastic is not necessary for freezing things. I like to use jars and I like to use silicone bags, but of course sometimes you do need to take some plastic. If you have any questions about that, feel free to ask. And that's it for the freezer tour. So if you guys liked this video, you're going to love the next one. I'm showing you my weekly meal prep routine, the recipes that I depend on and make time and time again. So click that video to watch.